Test, test. Test, test. Hello, everybody. I'm trying this. This is new for me, so you'll have to bear with me a bit as we're just going to kind of play with this tonight and see how things go and give her a whirl. Hello, Mary. Hello, Tuesday and Charlie. Hello, Penny. Hi, Helen. Make plenty of popcorn. I can't have any, regrettably, so you can have plenty for me. Give me just a second here. All right, sorry about that. I'm back. Kyra, are you on here? I saw you tweet that I was on. Well, there's just so much going on right now that I thought it might be kind of fun to talk about it and get your guys' take on things. I don't necessarily have a lot of people to bring on board and have a chat with right now, but it's more fun to. Okay, nice to see you, Kyra. Let's see. No, Helen, I did not. Helen's question was Twatter about forcing her to change password today on all devices. That usually happens when you've done something that they don't like, but not quite enough that they can justify banning you. They just want to really annoy you. I get that all the time. Luckily, I only use one device for Twitter usually, so it keeps it pretty simple. But anyway, I'm doing well, Marie. Thank you. How are you today? Hopefully, New Zealand doesn't think we're all too crazy here with all the stuff that's going on. Our elections are a little out of control right now. We're looking to fix that. So, anyway, my take on the whole thing that's going on is that we got Patriots in control. There's nothing that is going on that makes me think that this was not planned for, was not allowed for, not completely and totally part of what was originally the plan. So, refreshments. But anyway, it's oh, Helen, welcome to Washington. I'm not far from wherever you happen to be. Yes, Inslee is a pain in our ass. He will be paying appropriately soon. Twitter doesn't show me notifications active. I haven't seen any training in about a week, just useless BS headlines. They may have you somewhat shadow blocked. That's the thing I encourage people to do is to retweet people, but I also encourage everybody to be careful about what you no retreat, what you retweet and how you retweet it. Making snarky comments directly on, Alyssa Milano's page is a good way to get a good, 7-day timeout. You don't want to do that. That's just not how you do it. Basically, what you do is you retweet it and you do it on your own timeline. But there's other things too. I had a good friend get their account gone because they retweeted the president's video from last night, and they just nuked the account almost immediately. So it's just there's a lot of people that are, Twitter's focusing on people, and they're making things tough on all patriots. So it's good to be aware, and it doesn't hurt to be just somewhat cautious. There's plenty of guys out there sticking their heads up. Let them be the targets. You don't necessarily need to be the targets. We need to have people that survive and are here for the long run too. It's not all about being the hero. There'll be plenty of opportunity for that for everybody. So, yeah, Twitter death blossom, that's for sure. We are seeing that happen. It's just going to be one of those deals where we know that certain platforms are going to collapse from their own illegalities, as it were. I'm not sure that Twitter's one of them. Facebook for sure is, I think, one of them. But Twitter could definitely be one as well. It's hard to tell. And yes, we are obviously winning, Helen. My take on the election, on the numbers, as the lawsuits and things start to build, and as they go further up the chain, up towards the Supreme Court, we're going to start seeing, and especially if it turns out that it's true that the ballots were all watermarked. If the ballots did have the radiological watermarking on them, then it's going to be easy to determine what the forgeries were from China versus the ones that were real. And as soon as they get rid of all those fake ballots and remove them from the count, we're going to see, that's obviously going to be where Biden's numbers come from. In Wisconsin, we pick up 1.2 million votes in a matter of no time, overnight, magically, and Trump picked up nothing. Come on, it's so far outside the realm of possibility. It's not even, what are the odds? They aren't. So APM. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. I think there's a good chance that we may see most of the country turn red by the time they eliminate all of the bad votes and all of the illegal in the different ways, be it the bogus ballots from China, the fraudulently added ones based on, people that don't even live in the state or in their jurisdiction anymore. Well, there's a lot of that has happened, and it was happening, and as soon as that goes, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, the isotope theory is going to be interesting. Like I say, we'll see how that flows. I don't know if that's why the National Guard was sent to those cities. It is coincidental that the cities that the National Guard were sent to are both issues with riots potentially, and or also voting and counting issues. Washington, my state, is one that got National Guard, and Helen will attest that we know that we have a lot of voting problems up here. I believe we were the test bed for some of the stuff that we're seeing right now, as a matter of fact. The magic votes appearing in the middle of the night is a problem. We saw that in our gubernatorial race back in 2000 or 2004, I believe, where Dino Rossi, the Republican, actually won the race initially. The Democrats screened for a recount. The Democrat gained ground. They schemed for a second recount, the Democrat gained more ground. They schemed for a third recount, the Democrat won. The Republicans said, no, we need to recount again. They said, no, 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 you can only have 3 recounts. And that's how they wrapped that one up nicely. And that was back in 2004, I believe. And that was a travesty. But we're nice Washingtonians, so we don't say anything. We go, oh well, that's just a shame. Well, we're paying for that now. Anyway, hey, Rabbit Leader, nice to see you. Let's see here. Hey, Terry, nice to see you. Glad to have you with here. Actually, it's not Seattle that has a National Guard, although why would Seattle have a National Guard? You obviously haven't been to Seattle, have you, much? No, I saw National Guard hitting out to Anacortes. Then had a friend that actually lives in Anacortes telling me that there's a big National Guard area in town, and they were beefing it up. So there was people coming from Whidbey Naval up to Anacortes as well. So, I agree, PM. I think we're going to have some time. My gut feeling is that the goal end date is December 25th. I've been trying to kind of piece together the timeline in my head, and I hate to make predictions and dates and stuff like that because we always get it wrong. I mean, I don't care who you are, none of us have gotten it right. 3D's 3 Nice doesn't get it right, and the Matrix doesn't get it right, none of us get it right. It just not happening. We can make some educated guesses and say, well, maybe, but there was a lot of talk over the past couple of years about December 25th being Freedom Day, and it seems kind of appropriate right now. And I picked that a lot up on the Chans and Coon a lot. So I don't know if that's necessarily what's really going to happen or not, but it's a month and a half. It's plenty of time for litigation to happen, plenty of time for them to get a lot of this sorted out. It doesn't drag it out too long. I mean, this has got to be wrapped up by January 20th, because that's when Trump's term ends, is January 20th. So this has to be all wrapped up and done and finalized and handled by then. So, and I don't think Trump's going to drag this out. I mean, Amy Coney Barrett, her appointment right before the election was just, I mean, military precision is the way I'll put that one out, because I mean, you couldn't have gotten any better timing to make that happen. So it's there's just so much going on, and I encourage everybody to not get wrapped up in the details and the minutia, and stay away from the mainstream media. You're just gonna get a nightmare. You're gonna get a headache. It's just not worth it. It just pretend like they don't exist. Newsmax, I watched them last night. They seem to do a pretty good job. They're busy doing a lot of questioning of what the hell themselves. So, it's yeah, I mean, it's good to have somebody that's actually questioning them, but do we totally trust them? Well, we shouldn't be trusting any media at this point. We need to have learned something from all of this. That should be the thing we've learned. Van Hicks, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you stopping in. Thanks for subscribing. Let's see here. Hey, Sandra, nice to see you. Nice to see you, Clay. Let's see how the boss has been saying is quite often lately, and how they tried to impeach him and didn't know he had to call translated. Yeah, I mean, the thing you got to realize is that Trump always is 5 steps ahead of everybody. And when he's saying things knowledgeably or with that little bit of Trumpism going on, that knowing Trump sound and voice, then that there's he's got it wrapped up. He's got everybody right where he wants them. This plan, this part of the plan, and I'll break it down for you guys really simply. And we're watching the show. Everything that we're seeing, I'm going to say the COVID, and I've said all this before, and I'll just re-say it again. The COVID, the voting, the ballots, Hunter, all this crap has all been planned. It's all happening according to plan. The white hats are in total and complete control of everything that happens. I know that that's going to probably set well because everybody's going to be like, well, what about the deaths? What about the deaths? I've kind of touched on that before, and I'll hit that again. You know, we're at war. We've been at war since 9/11. A lot of people don't remember that we're still at war, but we actually technically still are in a state of war in this country. We have not come off of it in 20 years. So, but this is a very real war. In a real war, there are losses, there are casualties. But if you stop and think about it, you know, everybody's like, well, why didn't you arrest all these traitors long ago? And you know, we could have stopped this, and Antifa this, and BLM that. And, you know, number one, we don't know that the deaths that were getting reported are actual real deaths. I mean, we know George Floyd was a hoax. We're pretty sure that that other one was a hoax. We don't know that the Patriot ones are real deaths. I mean, I hate to say that because it looks like at least this last one that, you know, where the reporter bodyguard shot the guy in the eye, that looked pretty convincing to me. I mean, I don't want to minimalize his sacrifice if it truly happened, you know. So please don't take that away from it. But it's possible that was also a staged event, and not necessarily by the white hats. The white hats might have put everybody in place, and then the black hats decided to do their thing and on their own. And I was like, oh shit, you know, we don't have time. We can't counteract it. But any other way that we approach this is more deaths. If we go out and we arrest everybody right now, well, half the nation, or a third of the nation, is still fully in thrall to the MSM and the Democrats. And they're, you know, you go out and you arrest Hillary, okay, you arrest Obama, arrest any of them. The truth about McCain, I know people that still think McCain is some glorified war hero, and he really isn't, and we know this. But until you can get people educated and knowledgeable enough and willing to learn, you know, we can sit here and try to we can force it to them, but they're not going to pick up on it because they don't care. They're not interested in hearing what we have to say. So until that changes to a degree, it's going to become, we're going to see more and more craziness, as it were. I think we're just going to see this ramp up until we get to the point where we're down to the 4 to the 6% that's left. And everything you're seeing is specifically to wake the normies. That's the goal. That's what we're doing. We're not exposing the deep state. Well, we are, but the deep state is already sunk. What we're doing is we're exposing the deep state so the normies wake up, so they see what's going on. We're not. The election was never in question. The election was never a problem. It's, you know, it was already predetermined. I hate to say that, but it was. Let me read some of these here. Everybody's talking a bunch here, so thank you. Hi Cheryl, nice to see you. Yeah, hit the likes. I appreciate that, guys. I'm kind of new to YouTube, so whatever is supposed to happen, go for it. Hi JJ, nice to see you, and thank you Red 5 for calling out the like thing. Lisa, yeah, Lisa, it's exactly what they did. They took the bait. They stuck their heads right through the noose. They didn't even hesitate. They ran headlong through that noose, and that noose is now snapped up around the neck, and most of them don't even know it. Oh, the hand taps. Yeah, you know, that's some esoteric stuff, Helen. I don't know. You know, I mean, I hand tap too. You'll hear me doing it on my table, and it comes across the mic, and it's a habit I got to break. You know, it's something that maybe he does unconsciously. I know that a lot of people say that he doesn't do anything without reason, but he's got to have some, I don't want to say nervous tics, but some habits that aren't, that are tells and stuff. So, um, yeah, you're right. It all had to come to fruition. It's got to happen the way it is. And you're right, Lisa. Some will never wake up. That's that 4 to 6% that Q has told us about. And part of that's going to be the some of the people, and you know, I don't know if that 4 to 6% includes the people that we know are bad. The indictments and the actual traders and stuff like that. If that 4 to 6% is outside of that, I kind of think it is, because if we know, like some of the info we got, like from that Swindoll video I broke down, that there was 30 million Americans that are involved in this satanic crap, the Luciferian stuff. I mean, that's more than 4 to 6%. That's 10%. So, and most all the people that we're talking about are part of that group, especially the upper level echelon people, like Hillary and Obama and Brennan and all those guys. I mean, they're all part of that stuff. So, are we double counting them? Are they part of that 4 to 6? Are they part of that 10? And then you take away their bit, and then we have 4 to 6 left. And then there's all the people that are insane that are, that should be in the asylums that are part of this. And there's just so many things and so many places to go. It's hard to know exactly. I'm just going to take that 4 to 6% as what's left after all the arrests. And the people that just can't readjust to normality, to reality, and we'll go from there. And yeah, that is a lot of people, Terry. What is, half of 30 million is 15 million people. That's a lot of freaking people. That's it makes you realize that Gitmo ain't going to cut it. That's why I know that there's, and I don't know if you've seen that. I haven't really promoted that thread about where I've shown that there's at least 2 other potential detention areas. That's a good thread to read. It's in my pinned tweet. And you're right. We do have to keep praying for the 6%, but I'm more interested in praying for those that we can save. The sooner we can save them, the sooner that we can move forward and get to the good part of the plan. Get to where the restoration, where everybody starts to get along, life gets better, the tension goes away. Everybody's not a dick anymore. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. When I work in retail, I know how people are, but it's going to change. The atmosphere will change palpably. We'll have a much more positive atmosphere, and as a result, people in general will be in much better moods. They'll be easier to deal with. They won't be so, like they are now, and hopefully, a lot of people will kind of change from their very self-centered viewpoints to more, hey, what am I doing and how is it affecting other people around me? I'd like to see that be a significant change in people as well. Even patriots. There's a lot of patriots that still have a lot to learn about what they do and how it affects people around them. So, how does Creepy Joe get 71 million votes? Well, he doesn't. There's not 71 million people that would vote for him, but there's a whole shitload of bots and fraudulent votes and things that have gotten him there. I would be surprised if his actual numbers were half that. They might even be a third of that. Some of the numbers I saw, like in California, they're saying that there was only 20% Republican support. What, really? After seeing the Trump trains and all the stuff going on down there and all the Latino support that Trump has? No, I don't buy it. There's no way that it's that skewed. Now, is it going to be a 60% Trump victory in California? No, I'm not saying that. But it's not going to be a 20%, only loss either. It's going to be, it's going to be 45 to 47%, maybe higher. But there's just no way that the numbers to plan out. Even here in Washington, I knew it was kind of bad, but when I was watching the numbers, I was like, really? You guys think you're going to be able to pull it off that far? Well, apparently they think they can because they're doing it. But nope, you haven't missed anything, Stacy. We're just the watermark stuff. Yeah, the watermark stuff is real interesting. We'll see how that goes. I don't have any firm, yeah, this is what's going to happen with it. If it's real, it's damning. If it's real, it's the end of the line for them, because it gives a definitive way of identifying real ballots versus fraudulent ones. And I mean, Q had told us about the Chinese fraudulent ballots that were going to be coming in. I mean, it's not that that's a surprise. We know that it's happening. So, yes, Tinaru. Sorry if I killed that. I'm not always good at words. Yeah, you are absolutely right. Stay away from negativity on social media, as well as staying away from MSM. My own feed today got a lot of troll type or concern fags, as we call them, that came in and were, oh my God, the sky's falling. And, I got a little short with a couple of them that just weren't quite getting the message. But at a certain point, you just like, okay, enough. Either you trust the plan or you don't. And if you don't, get out. You're in the wrong spot. You obviously haven't done enough homework. You need to go read more. I hate to be that way about it. I don't want to be a dick about stuff, but on the flip side, I'm not going to sit there and argue with somebody about, something I know is not true, and, clog up my feed with a bunch of crap. So, and I encourage all of you to continually restudy the Q drops. If you have not done so, qag.news. Let me type that in here. Say something. qag.news is the place I like to go. It's very, very, very useful. It's very friendly. It lets you really do some wonderful searching. It's the best search I've found. I used to struggle with, used to use QMap a lot, and I always struggled with the search on that. It's kind of more channy than it is user friendly. And, I'll admit I'm not a full Chan autist by any stretch. And so the Q, that particular QAG has a really great search engine. And they also came up with a really cool thing is if you want to share a post, they've got some camo that you can put on the post so you can screenshot it and then relay it instantly without having to do your own camo. So it's really nice. It's its own way to get through the censors and Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. And you don't have to do anything. You just click a button, you're done. So it's really cool. No Chinese borders crossed the border yet. I haven't had to shoot anybody, so we're good. And it very well may be real. I would not be surprised if we don't have a two-prong situation going on with Antifa within and Chinese without. MS-13 was supposed to be some other major shock troops. And that's why it was so important for the wall to get built and them to get rounded up, because we were going to have another set of armies coming up from South America too. So you combine all that together, it was going to get pretty hairy, but we've knocked it down some. So, excuse me. It's the wall means more than we know, and it truly does, because it really was more than just a wall. It was literally a way to keep a foot army from marching up from South America. And it would have been ISIS and MS-13. It would not have been, Guatemalan refugees. Just like it is in Europe, with all these Syrian refugees. And they're all, 22 to 35, male, all in pretty good health, no females, no kids. Oh, gee, they're really good refugees. Yeah, come on. Let's not look at it that way. So I'm glad you calmed down, Clay. That's a good thing. Oh, you want me to do a Space Force thread? Man, it's one of my absolute favorite topics, but I can never find enough evidence to do a factual enough thing to to do a thread on it. You know, I get into some pretty weird stuff. I'll admit it. You know, my Antarctica digs, my Atlantis ideas and stuff like that. I mean, but I'm willing to throw that out there as speculation. Space Force, there's so much information out there already that, I mean, I have trouble separating truth from fiction. I've got some insider information that I'm trying to vet to a degree. But it's hard. It's very difficult. You know, because I mean, you know, people like McKinnon. You know, McKinnon was a plant. He was a CIA guy, and so whatever he came up with was, or no, excuse me, not McKinnon. Lazar. Sorry, I get those two mixed up. Lazar was the plant, and he was CIA. So I mean, anything Lazar said, we just take as, well, maybe there's a little truth in there, but what? And you got to sort that out and pull it out and get rid of it. McKinnon, you know, he had some good info. You know, I mean, a lot of people say Solar Warden's a real thing. I mean, that fascinates me. I mean, well, probably the top two halves of these two bookshelves is completely science fiction. So yes, I love sci-fi. Yes, I'm into that. I mean, I've been wanting to go to space since I was a little kid, you know, and well, I mean, I'm really not in the shape to do so now, but you know, I mean, it was something that I always did want to do. And the fact that there is a potential possibility that I might be able to do that before I die is just astounding to me. And it blows my mind. I mean, I'd love to do that. So I'm cautiously optimistic about it, but enough to do a thread, no, because I just don't have enough detail or enough information I can put out there to make it, you know, a viable thread. So my apologies. Let's see here. Let me read some here, guys. Yeah, Sandra, you're right. I mean, they're going nuts trying to come up with enough votes to bridge the gap. I think they were not planning on the gaps being as big as they were. I honestly think you're right. Yeah, I know Canada's talking about UN forces. Trudeau's just a New World Order puppet. I mean, or I should say, Castro's son. He's pretty much no good. So, yeah, that's the one I posted, Terry. Hermes Trismegistus, aka Toth. Was he from Atlantis? He very well could have been Atlantean. It's hard to get you've got these civilization peaks that go along. We've got evidence of, you know, each individual civilization peak. There's like seven or eight. I can't remember exactly. The Atlanteans are way back. They're back near the first or second one. And then, you know, so it's hard to know specifically timeline wise. I mean, we've been lied to so much that we don't know what's real. I mean, we just don't know where things are happening, when they happened, who was present. You know, so we're having to make some educated guesses based on, okay, we think they were around during this era. But yes, I do believe that Toth was potentially Atlantean. He was definitely a survivor of whatever catastrophe. And, you know, that overtook Atlantis, and he was able to go out and try to reseed, you know, new civilizations. That whole fish head priest thing, I think the Dagon priests, I think was very much that. I could be wrong, but that's my thought. The polls closed. Now, everybody immediately went to polls, meaning North and South Pole. But what does the number 11 look like? Let's leave that out there. I'm not saying it's right, but it's something else to consider. I just don't see how the polls can have anything to do with what POTUS said. It's possible there's a detention center down in Antarctica. the biggest problem you have is access to it. Not saying that it needs to be accessible easily. Or long day at work. But it would help. And Antarctica, a good portion of Antarctica is only accessible 6 months of the year. So I don't know. I mean, I'm willing to admit that I'm not sure, but part of me says no way. Part of me says, it's a possibility. So, I mean, discern. And yes, Bob Lazar was definitely CIA. He actually was employed by the CIA. He has admitted as much. He, in a number of his interviews, he talked about it. So, and he has been employed by the CIA since he went public. So, does that tell you anything? You don't get a job at the CIA after you become a whistleblower unless you were a plant. Space Force is absolutely Trump's way of really revealing a secret space program. Like I say, I've got some reasonable inside info that has confirmed some stuff to me, but I'm not 100% willing to just rest everything on that. But it sounds like there's a lot of phenomenal stuff. I mean, we're not talking just solar system, we're talking galactic. So, I mean, we're out there. We're, if you've seen Star Trek, you've seen Star Wars, you've seen, all the different shows, like I have, I mean, yeah, it's going on. It's out there. So, let's see here. Oh, wrong way. Hard to do this, talk, because I got to talk with my hands and stare at the camera. I can't read at the same time. Can't read and talk. I'll start saying what's over there versus saying what I'm thinking. 25,920 years times 5. And I actually believe it's times 6 or 7, Terry. I think it's more than just that. That 25,920 is actually going to turn out to be fairly important. I'm not going anywhere near that at this point, though. I'm getting some info on it that's a little disturbing, and I want to sauce it. Get some ducks in a row before I go there. We have a lot of stuff in front of us we need to deal with before we start thinking about that potential issue. And yes, John Kerry was at the South Pole immediately the day after the 2016 election. One of my Antarctic threads covers that. He actually went down to Mount Erebus, was up at the crater, or within the mountain at the caldera where the lava lake is. I actually got a hold of his Fitbit, so I was able to see his map of where he went. He pretty much went everywhere, and some areas that he probably shouldn't have been, but he was definitely down there. Google servers under the ice, man, I don't know about that. If they had Google servers under the ice down in Antarctica, why did they need to have Google servers in North Korea? There's all sorts of logistic issues about Google servers down in Antarctica. Power. I mean, how you have power? Keeping them cool is obviously not an issue, but power is the big one. You can't just go down there and build a power generation plant. And I know people like to say, oh, they Photoshop it out or whatever. Yeah, but I mean, something that big would be pretty obvious if it was down there. And I've spent a lot of time looking at the whole continent. Now, I'll admit it's a very big continent. It's as big as the United States, so it would be easy to miss something. And it wouldn't be that hard to hide it either, as far as within the satellite images. But logistically, it means you'd have to have a geostationary satellite dedicated to the South Pole. Well, how do you do that? You can't. Geostationary is only equatorial within, I can't remember the number, but it's not a lot of degrees, so they don't come real far north or south a long ways. That's why we have such crappy images of the poles. They just don't satellite coverage doesn't really get to the poles. So there's more to it than that. Antifa is in a lot of places they're not supposed to be, but again, they're sticking their heads out and the news has been laid for them. They will not be an issue. Trump wins 273, 268, Dems demand a recount. Boom. Yeah, let them. Yep, and the longer they have their hand in the cookie jar, the more it becomes blatantly obvious. And that's exactly what's happening, is that they are letting them make this as obvious as they possibly can so that they can expose them to the normies and wake more normies up, because that's why we're here. Yeah, I've got a couple of different apps I have on my phone for looking at what's up in the sky right now. It's kind of cool. Satellites and things like that. Oh, that's interesting, Clay. I'm not going to dismiss big stuff. I mean, there's close encounters type size motherships are not out of the question. And who knows? They might be ours. I'm not certain that aliens are, I don't necessarily buy into the Pleiadian and the Nordics and all that stuff, and the Greys and the Eyes and all that. I there's just something about the whole situation that doesn't really, it just doesn't sit right. Interdimensional, I'll go for it. Extraterrestrial, I believe it's possible. I don't think that we're alone in the universe as far as in our dimension, but I don't know that we're overrun with that many choices. I don't think it's necessarily a reality. You'd think that if there was that many of them out there and they were living among us or whatever, that we would have some evidence of it somehow, some way. And I'm not talking about crappily, doctored photoshops and stuff like that. I'm talking legit, clear evidence that's irrefutable. And there hasn't been any of that I can see. Most of it's been just kind of that sketchy, obviously made up stuff. And it just, that kind of stuff doesn't help a movement, advance itself. It just makes everything look silly. So, if they're real, then they're doing themselves a disfavor by doing some of that stuff. Is there a dome 13K? No, there's no dome. I've looked for it. It's not down there. And you couldn't hide something like that. I mean, there'd be a landing strip. There'd be something that would show that it's there. I did find that one anomaly down there, that straight line anomaly. I kind of am thinking that it was a aberration, satellite aberration, because it matches the scan width of that pass, and it disappears before and after. But it's kind of cool, so I leave it. Oh, let's see here. Yeah, the MSM needs to be exposed. That's yeah, they're being exposed. They're pretty much hanging to the breeze right now. But I'll admit I ran across some coworkers just yesterday, and we were talking about the election and stuff, and they're definitely not pro-Trump, but they're more anti-Biden than they're anti-Trump, and they voted Trump kind of out of disgust, as it were, because those Trumpers, and they're all going to go out there and they're going to shoot up the place. They were convinced that we were going to start riots if we lost. I was like, what news are you watching? Because I don't watch the mainstream media at all, so I don't know. And I'm thinking, wow, okay. That I said, well, I'm one of those guys, and trust me, my guns are staying in the safe. Only time it's going to get used is somebody approaches me at the house. So there's no issues there. So 9/11. Wow, 9/11. I'll admit I was a 9/11 doubter for a long time. Only recently have I started to um, see potential for other behaviors. The suspicious thing to me was the Israelis with the fuse boxes that were there. You know, the picture of the Israeli students doing the art installation that had boxes labeled fuses. And, you know, when you do the search for the fuses, they're obviously not, you know, plug in the wall electrical fuses. Um, so that one has had me kind of scratching my head a little bit. I don't have a problem with kerosene combining with airflow. I mean, anybody that's had any experience with fire, which I'll admit I've had some experience with fire. Um, you can make a fire much hotter based on airflow, and you know, an airflow in a tower like that is going to act like a natural towering inferno. Literally, it's going to pull air from underneath, and it's the perfect conditions. And I mean, I've melted a steel barrel with a wood fire. Okay, I've literally melted it to the point where it distorted and deformed. My wife's looking at me like, "What?"
No, I know you now.
And that wasn't even ours. That was before I knew you. So I mean, it's possible. And all it takes is just airflow and placement of stuff. So people that say that kerosene only burns at a certain temperature, well, that's ignition temperature. That's not necessarily the temperature that will only burn at. So I think that the temperatures could have got hot enough that it could have really weakened the structure. On the flip side, how the structure fell has never sat well with me. You know, I always thought it would kind of come down a couple and then maybe do a tilt and lean. You know, as the weight and as the structure, you know, imbalanced and did this, but it went straight down, and that never made sense to me. And the fact that the second one fell the exact same way just was like that kind of always made me pause. But I thought, well, you know, maybe there's things about construction I don't know or don't understand. And I was willing to accept that. Um, you know, people talking about the planes crashing into the buildings and being CGI and stuff. It's possible. Um, I actually saw the second plane hit live on TV. Um, so I don't know if, you know, admittedly TV was really crappy back then. You know, I mean, 480p, you know, is what we would call it nowadays, which is, you know, a quarter of HD and, you know, and the 16th of 4K. So I mean, you know, quality level, it's crap. So it wouldn't be that hard to produce that. Um, but people are, you know, analyzing the airplane passage through and the explosive bashes and stuff. I don't know. There's enough there that makes me go, well, I can see how it could happen, but there's enough there that makes me go, well, yeah, that's pretty screwed up. I mean, Building 7, there's no question in my head that was blown up. That was not part of the deal. Um, I honestly think that they might have blown the towers to keep them from falling in another way that would have endangered more buildings and more people. I actually kind of thought that at the time. But you know, now that we know more about who's behind it and what's behind it, then I can re-examine some of the behaviors and some of the motivations. You know, I mean, the dude that owned it, you know, just magically got double the payout for it. You know, come on. So anyway, um, let's see here. Um, Amazon stocks? No, I haven't paid attention. I stock market. I don't care about. No offense. It's just not my thing. I'm not a money guy, obviously. Um, so you know, I rely on other people to be knowledgeable about that. I talk to them. You're welcome, Jenny. Do what I can. I'll admit when I don't know. A lot of stuff I've done recently has been stuff that I've been studying literally for 30 years. so off and on in one way, shape, or form. And that's why, when I can start putting those dots together, it clicks for me because I remember this and I remember that and I remember this, and I can go to it and I can, okay, here it is in this book or whatever, and I can start weaving it together. Stuff like Space Force, I only have anecdotal. I mean, if there was a huge Space Force thread on Above Top Secret from 15, 20 years ago, and it was just a wealth of knowledge, and it's gone, and it's totally completely missing. I went looking for it a couple times in the past year or two, and I haven't been able to find it. I wish I could, because I think there's a lot of really great info in there for people. So let's see here. 5 terrorist passports were found on the sidewalk. Yeah, that does seem a little suspicious. But paper actually is funny. And passport paper is a little thicker than normal. Paper doesn't ignite quickly. If you've ever held a match to a paper, it doesn't light immediately. It takes it a second. So if you imagine a piece of paper that gets pushed out through air movement through a fireball, it's entirely possible it may come out nothing more than slightly singed. It's, this isn't Hollywood. Things just don't go and burn immediately. I mean, the reality is that things don't burn quite the way you think they do. And there's, I don't have a problem with looking at things and going, yeah, that's strange. I mean, like all the passports being on the ground, unmangled, unburned, unsinged. Yeah, okay, that. Gee, how convenient, is how I would put that. In my now Q days, before I would have, been able to logically dismiss it, but now it's kind of hard to do that. Actually, all the gold was underneath one of the trade centers. Building 7 is where all the transaction records for the $2 trillion that was missing for the Pentagon. It was part of it. The Pentagon, the area that got hit in the Pentagon, was the other area for the transaction. So anyway, and yes, they are well, we aren't eating food, Gene. We haven't been eating food in a very long time. So they don't have to poison our food. They just have to feed us the crap that they call food. It's because it's not food. It's food-like stuff. I mean, yeah. I shouldn't be doing this, But I mean, unless you're buying from the farm, from the butcher, from the farmer, you don't know what's in your food. You don't know what it is. I mean, China has come up with a way to make lettuce out of paper, and they can fluff it up with water to make it look real. And so you think you're eating lettuce, but you're not. You're eating something else. How about all that rice that they sold us? It was just plastic. This rice didn't cook real well. Oh well, you're not eating rice. You're eating plastic. That's healthy. We've gotten so much crap in our system, and it'll be really good when Trump really starts to attack that. But on the flip side, we as society can decide to do something about it now. I'm not exactly the picture of model health here, but I've read the Forks Over Knives, or watched Forks Over Knives, and read about juicing and watched the movies, and sugar is the killer. If you I can't. It was a Netflix special that was about sugar, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was really eye-opening about the amount of sugar that's in the stuff that we consume daily. I mean, we're ingesting, even if we're careful, we're still ingesting something like 200 times the amount of sugar we should be daily. And sugar is actually more addictive than cocaine. It is the most addictive drug on the planet, because your body, and everybody gets hooked on it. There's nobody that doesn't get hooked. So I mean, it's some dangerous stuff, and it should be a controlled substance, but it really isn't. So um, anyway, uh, later, Terry. Thanks. Have a good night. Yeah, China's got some. Well, I mean, look at the crap they feed their own people. I mean, we're talking about a country, and don't get me wrong, China itself, I have a lot of respect for. I've actually studied Chinese martial arts. Yes, I know it doesn't look like it, but I did. I studied Wing Chun and I studied Tai Chi both. The Tai Chi I studied with an 80-year-old Chinese master, one of the top rated masters in the country, as a matter of fact. And that little 140-pound guy could move me around like I was nothing. So I mean, there's something to what they can teach you. You know, they've got a very ancient culture and they have a lot of knowledge. They have a lot of knowledge about fusing human bodies, human physiology, you know, their ideas behind ki and chi, or chi, as some people call it. In healing, I don't think are wrong. I don't think they're necessarily right, but I mean, I think there's some value to them. You know, I think balance is very important, and they teach that. And you know, they remember yin and yang. It's a very Taoist thing. You know, Confucianism, no, that's deep state type thought process. But Taoism is actually a fairly solid thought process. Um, and they have a lot to offer, and they really do. And we'd be fools to, you know, to number one, underestimate them, but number two, throw the baby out with the bathwater. Our fight is with our government, the CCP, the CCP being the Chinese Communist Party. The CCP is the deep state, and you know, as soon as we understand that, and the other thing we have to understand is that Xi is, I don't think Xi is the bad guy. I know everybody's trying to tie Biden to him and hook that albatross around his neck and all this stuff. But, you know, Xi had to be the point guy for a lot of stuff that probably he didn't necessarily want to be involved with. But he's had to do what he's had to do to survive. And I'm pretty sure he's playing ball with Trump because based on what I know of the coronavirus and how it initially got going, I'm pretty sure G saved the world. And there's a lot of things that people are not aware, and I haven't talked about it a lot. I mean, I've done a couple threads on it, and all of this is in those threads. But we haven't approached it because everybody's so burned out on coronavirus, and frankly, I am too. But I'm about 95% sure Xi saved the world by some of his draconian measures initially, because the initial strain of COVID that got out was not a friendly strain. It was a very, very, very nasty strain that you guys remember the videos about the people puking blood and falling over dead? Yeah, that one. It had an Ebola content to it. And luckily, the lesser strain that we are now dealing with, if you had it and survived, you were immune to the stronger strain. So I think what they did is remember when they were spraying all those, you know, they said they were disinfecting the air, but they were just spraying crap into the air. And, you know, they had those big trucks spewing, you know, 4-foot diameter streams of crap out. And they walking around with like leaf blowers, blowing crap all over people. And I think they were purposely infecting people with the lesser version before they caught the stronger one, because they also had all those buildings where they were actually sealing the people in the buildings, and they were welding the doors shut, they were incinerating people, they had all that. There was a reason for that, and I think those were the people and the areas that contracted the bad stuff. So I think he took some really hugely draconian measures, and they contained the bad one, and then the softer version is what got out. And I really think that the deep state was counting on that nasty version being the one that got out. That was supposed to be the kill shot, and thankfully it didn't. And anyway, that's my take on it from what I saw and what I read and what I figured out initially. I haven't advertised that a lot because I don't have a ton of sauce on it. It's a little bit of a tenuous connection, but it's there. So anyway, let's see here. Yeah, sugars, I mean, it's horrid. And people that drink energy drinks are just killing themselves. They just don't know it. The industry I'm in, it's like they drink it like water. I know guys who are drinking 6, 7, 8 of those a day, and they're in their 50s and they're doing this crap, and it's like, man, they're going to just one day their heart's just going to go boom and they're done. So anyway, Corona one offline, was that G? I don't know. I never made that connection. It's possible. As we know, everything that Q says and does has got multiple layers to it. I mean, they say one thing and they mean 2 or 3 or more at the same time. So, watch the water. I mean, how many times have we come across that? I mean, the watermark, the lakes on Hunter's Back, the submarine. How many ways can we cover watch the water? I mean, it seems to have worked everything. So, there's a lot to that. Yeah, there was a bunch of stuff early in February that came out that all of a sudden just disappeared, and nobody remembers seeing it. I shouldn't say nobody remembers seeing it. They remember it, but nobody really followed up on it or made sense of it because it was so chaotic and so confusing. And I think I did a thread early in March or April about it, and I had come put all this together and then come up with a good thread on it. Maybe one day I'll cover it in here and kind of hang my hat on it a little bit more, but I don't. It's kind of morbid, and I don't want to get into a bunch of fighting with a bunch of people with about my thought processes about stuff. It's how I think. It's what I see. If you agree with me, great. If you don't, perfect. I mean, you're free to think your own thing. Just don't argue with me. I mean, I don't mind dissension. I don't mind discussion. And the problem is that rarely do people discuss. They attack, and I'm not fond of that. It's difficult to have intelligent discussion and disagreement. I relish those people that can do that because it's wonderful to have an exchange of ideas at that level, and you can really learn a lot from somebody that way. But it's very, very rare, and especially on the online. It's just there's no filter for anybody. I mean, they can be whatever keyboard asshole they want to be, and I'm not interested in dealing with it. So. Yes, the Fiji water thing was another watch the water thing. I mean, there was so many watch the waters. I mean, we've had, criminy. I can't even tell you how many times that's come up. I can think of at least 6 or 7 minimum, and there's probably more if I actually sat down and started looking. It's crazy. Do I think Trump will dismantle the alphabet agencies? Well, Jane, that's yes. I know he's going to dismantle at least one, possibly 2. We know the CIA is going away. That has been told to us. Q has said that. Barring that that's not disinformation. I don't have any doubt that it is, based on what we're seeing. They're going to roll all the responsibilities of the CIA into the NSA, and the NSA is going to become the spy agency. The CIA was corrupt from the get-go. I mean, its creation. I'm doing some work on another big thread. I got about 7 different huge threads I'm working on. Some of them involve other people because it's just too much for one person. But the CIA is one of them, and the CIA, Nazi, South America, Fourth Reich, all that connection is pretty incredible. The Operation Paperclip and the OSS and all that. When you start studying the series of events and the things that are going on, hang on. Well, I'll figure it out later. I haven't figured out how to share my screen yet, so I can show you the maps and stuff. But I've got a picture I came up with that everybody says is Bush Jr. and his dad, and I actually figured out who they really were, and it is Bush Jr. Or Bush Sr. Sorry, but it's not his dad, and it's not the gal is actually Bush's sister. So I found pictures of all of them, put them up to compare, so you can see who they really are and see that it's really them. Um, but the kicker to it in the picture is that George Bush Sr. is wearing a German naval uniform, post World War II, pre Korean War German naval uniform. Why would George Bush Sr. be wearing a German naval uniform? Well, no, not because he's a German, but because he actually was part of this. Yes, but no, because he was part of the CIA from an early age, and that was called the OSS probably about that time. I'm not sure the exact date. I think the date was 46 or 47. I don't think the CIA was actually formed until 47. Might be off of my dates, but anyway, there's that whole era was just a mess. I mean, there was so much going on. So it's a very fascinating time frame. There's a show on the History Channel called Hunting Hitler. It's 3 seasons. Season 1's pretty amazing. Season 2 is mind blowing. Season 3 will turn your brain into mush. And will make you reevaluate everything you think you know about what happened at the end of World War II. And it is critical. I really highly recommend it because it will help everybody understand part of what's going on right now and why the CIA is what it is and why the CIA is so involved in South America and Central America. But anyway. Yes, JFK, CIA, he was there. Yeah, there was a couple videos of people. There was one of a guy on a subway. He just sitting there, and he was kind of slumped over, and I mean, he just puked blood right on the floor, and then just basically died right there. I mean, he just collapsed right into it. And there was another one where they showed a guy that he just kind of it looks like he kind of coughed and hemorrhaged and then just fell flat on his face right there. So thank you, Sandra. I appreciate that. I am hard on myself, but it is what it is. Not hard enough, apparently. Well, POTUS actually, his two-handed drinking, I think, is actually is real. He does it on purpose. He's explained that, he wears some pretty high dollar ties. I mean, if you've priced some of those high-end ties, I mean, they're like $1,000, $2,000 a pop. I mean, I wouldn't want to get a water spot on one of them either. So I would be careful drinking too. And he's pretty fastidious. He's a little bit of a germaphobe. That was known prior to his being president, so that's nothing new. And I mean, so that put that in perspective with his reaction to COVID should tell you what you should know about COVID. I mean, if he was truly a germaphobe, and he is, I mean, he's never been really one for shaking hands and stuff. So I mean, him coming out of the shell and doing what he's doing as president now is just amazing, as far as for somebody that might have that phobia. But nobody ever talks about that. Anyway, Jim Carrey movie with Hunter Biden missing children links. Don't know. I'm not a big Jim Carrey fan. Wasn't before I knew about him. Still aren't. So sorry, haven't seen it. I have no opinion. So George Bush Sr. is Paperclip. George Bush Sr. was integral in Paperclip. We haven't seen any actual documentation on it, but I there's no doubt about it in my head. Their dad was so integral in helping fund Hitler in World War II, and them and Henry Ford of all people. Yeah, Hitler was. There's more there than we know. um, the Nazis kind of tie into another thread I'm working on that's Khazaria, and the two different layers of Jews and stuff, and seeing it from different angles, you can start to get a better appreciation for. I think Hitler was used as a scapegoat in some ways. I'm not saying he wasn't an evil shit. He absolutely was. But I think that they piled some stuff on him that he didn't necessarily do. I think some of his underlings were even more evil. Goebbels for one, Bormann for another one. There was some real bad folk under him. So anyway, oh yeah, that Obama thing where he drank the water. Yeah, come on. I mean that was as classless as you can get. And it should have told everybody everything they need to know about that asshole. Sometimes the weird things that Trump does are supposed to be comms, but not always. Sometimes the weird thing Trump does is just because Trump is human and he does weird things. We all have our quirks. We all have our ticks. So, and he's not any different. Hey, Alan, good to see you. Definitely sister ship sunk. That was not the Titanic that went down. That was the Olympus. The photographic proof of the bridge area and structure and shape is there. That's unique to each ship, and they were able to get it repainted. I mean that ship was going to go down no matter what, because the coal fire underneath in the hull before it even left, and then the iceberg, which may or may not have really been there. It may have been the coal fire actually leaked in the hole, and the hole ruptured. So I mean, there's lots of stuff. I don't remember if the Cameron thing actually ever saw the the opening and the tear in the hull. I think that was kind of buried. So it's just one of those things where it is what it is. Don't watch NBC News. Shut it off. Quit wasting your goddamn time. Is there a way to stay in contact after my Twitter account commits tragic suicide? I'll be around. You'll know where to find me. You'll know it's me. It's pretty hard to know it's not me. I have a fairly unique way of doing things, so you'll know. Blood libel. Explain. I'm not sure that I've heard the phrase, but I'm not sure what the relationship is. So please clarify that, and I'll give you an answer. I honestly think the adrenochrome thing goes right back to the Garden of Eden. If you didn't see my last little bit, my last thread is where. Sorry, I had to think about where that was, because my last thread and my last interview were basically two different threads that should have been one. But anyway, sorry, my wife's over here trying to die from sneezing. So
I have no control.
I have no control somewhere else if you're going to do it.
So kiss my grits.
Oh, you got booted from Twitter for 6 days? Great. My views with the POTUS EMS, my fellow Americans, nowhere has it said that POTUS is going to say that. It just says, look to Twitter. It does not say that POTUS is going to be the one that utters that. So if we take that into account, we may have already seen it. Because remember, what was Joe M's screen name? Are you talking about the series that the Hunting Hitler one? Here, I'll just type it. There you have it. It's on the History Channel. It's really good. It's worth the watch. I kind of watched a little bit skeptically initially, but man, they put some stuff together. I think it's partial disclosure, but it is definitely, if you're interested in that and interested in, if you're interested in World War II, if you're interested in Nazis, if you're interested in um, how the CIA and how it's gained where it is and what it does, any of it, this will put some stuff into perspective for you that you'll go, oh, really now? And it'll make a lot of more sense. I've collected some other information that really bring it in a really sharp focus. And you start looking at things like the war on drugs. Well, the war on drugs was not a war on drugs. The war on drugs was the CIA's war on all the cartels, so the CIA had complete control of the drug trade. Poor Reagan didn't know that. He was kept in the dark about a lot of stuff. And he was pretty much a puppet after the assassination attempt anyway. That was his warning. So, yeah, don't call Gaga. Alan, stop. I thought I taught you better. Don't go onto someone's feed and do that. Retweet it and call them a bad word. That's how you do it. You get away with it that way. If you go onto their thread and do it, you're done. And Gaga's one of the ones they protect. What did Athena's do last night, Marie? Have the Nazis all been captured? No. A lot of them have died, living out their natural life down there. Hitler probably died in Paraguay. Paraguay. One of the two. They're right next to each other, so. I have a fly on my head. Thank you. No, that's my wife.
What?
Never mind. Who do I think will run for president in 2024? I think it's going to be Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Her leaving of the White House, and she's running for governor, I believe, of Georgia, I think. I don't remember what state she's running for, but governorship is one of those ones that it's like an immediate qualification to become president. Senator or House of Representatives, you got to be in there for 20 years before anybody's going to pay attention to be a presidential candidate. You're a governor, you're in quickly. Well, I can't say that. We did elect Obama in after 3 years of being a senator or whatever the heck he was. So. Yeah, I'm not sure what to think about Entheos. In some ways, I think it could be a helper account. It could be, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to doubt it, but I don't want to necessarily just buy straight into it either. I think that's one that's worth watching, but I think it's also worth discerning heavily. Some of the stuff they've done and said has been, and years before the fact, been pretty amazing. So who knows? I mean, I've heard tell that there's more than just the Q group involved in a lot of this is going on. So it's possible that there's more than one group out there giving us hints, giving us help, showing us things. It all depends on your belief of how big the scope is. Is the scope the planet? Is the scope galactic? Is it, solar system? What's the scope? And the bigger the scope gets, the more people need to be involved and could be involved. And, some of that stuff gets pretty mind blowing and it's pretty easy to overwhelm. That's why I don't necessarily approach that. I'll stay with my smaller version of the world until we know that there's a bigger version out there, and then I'll have to readjust my thinking accordingly. I'm not afraid to necessarily do that, but one thing at a time. Let's get through this one first. Ivanka or Candace O would be good choices. Candace, much as I love Candace, she's not politically ready yet. She's savvy, but she needs a little seasoning. Command and control is very important. Trump got that from running his businesses, where Candace does not have that. So I would be concerned about her capabilities as far as leading, because leaders are made. Some are born, but most are made, and not everybody can lead. Candace is a very good example of someone who has a very good presence and a very good way about her, and an ability to talk. But can she form a coalition of people and lead it? That's a whole different thing. If any of you have ever managed people, you'll understand what I'm talking about there. I don't want to doubt Candace, because I know that she's a phenomenal woman. But does she have the history and does she have the background to necessarily support a presidential run? I don't know. Ivanka, no question. Question is, does she want to do it? Or does she want to go back to doing what she wanted to do, which was, making her mark on the world? That's another exceptionally incredible woman that I think her and Melania are getting the short stick from the press and the media, beyond belief. So it's just it's a shame, really, because those are two women that should be being celebrated, and instead they're being vilified. Wow. Okay, I missed some stuff here. Let me flip back. This election, do you think Biden declares himself the winner, or does Trump win all the states still up for grabs? I think Biden's going to declare himself the winner. Come on, man. The thing, I won the thing. Listen, Jack. Whatever. It's immaterial what Biden does. It's all part of the show. In the long run, what's going to happen is POTUS is going to have the cards. The court's going to agree with him. It's going to strip half of Biden's votes, and he's going to be exposed to the fraud he is, and the rightful winner will be there. So I'm kind of done worrying about the election. It's going to play out how it needs to play out, in no other way. Ivanka's husband is too connected to Israel. Be careful with that. Israel is not the enemy. Parts of Judaism are, but Israel itself is not the problem. Israel has gotten themselves put where they are through no fault of their own. Now, some of it is people that are in power. It's very hard separating those two out, but you can't paint with a big brush, and saying that he's too involved with Israel is doing exactly that. And I would really recommend that you don't do that. It's going to be hard for you to defend that in the long run. No offense, but just my take on things. And especially since I'm studying Khazaria and how things go, I can speak with a little bit of authority on what's really happened there. And it ain't what everybody thinks. So, actually, Jared Kushner cannot be a Jesuit because he is now Jewish. Jesuits are actually Catholic. So, just again, be careful. View on cloning. Well, I kind of covered that the other day in one of my interviews. I've yet to see a compelling example of. Let me back up before I say that. I believe human cloning is entirely possible and probably being done. But there's one thing that has not been answered to my satisfaction. And I am somewhat technical and somewhat scientific in my knowledge base. And you better have a goddamn good explanation for me if I'm going to ask this question. How do you age the clone? Clone has to go through a normal gestational period. It also has to age like a normal human baby and child. How do you put 60 years or 70 years of age on a clone immediately, within just a year or two? Until you can answer me that, There's no clones that are being used for decoys. There's potentially younger clones floating around. Do I think that potentially Taylor Swift is a clone of Anton LaVey's wife? I'm not going to dismiss that. The age difference is right. They look like dead ringers. I mean, you can't tell the two apart if you were to put a picture of the two of them side by side. So, I mean, do I think it's out there and possible? Yes. Do I think it's being used in the way that everybody wants to think? Not at all. It just is not possible. You know, there's not two Joe Bidens running around. One's a clone and the other one's not real. People have to remember a clone is an exact physical clone. You will not be able to tell the difference at the same age between two different clones that have the same DNA. They will have all the same characteristics. Their hair will be the same. If they're cut the same, you won't be able to tell the difference between the hair. Their earlobes will be attached and not detached, or you know whatever the original was is what they're going to have. You know, we've got two Bidens here that one has attached earlobes and the other one doesn't. That's not a clone. It's impossible. It is a different person. It's a double, or someone wearing a mask that's not a great mask. What makes a great movie? Great actors. That's the clue that everybody keeps missing. Where are all the actors that we know that Hollywood has? There's a few that keep popping up and making noise every once in a while. But for the most part, most of them are being really, really, really quiet. What are they doing? What are they up to? What's got them so busy that they're not out there flapping their gums 900 million miles an hour giving us the advice that we don't want? I don't know. Think about it a little bit. Tell me what you come up with. Oh, where am I? Wow, you guys keep talking here. It's fine. Just give me a second to catch up here. I like to read. Different places of Q as the Galactic Federation. Yeah, okay. We know Q is military intelligence. Let's just leave it at that, and let's not get crazy about what we're assigning to it. I mean, like I've said about Antarctica, there's enough real shit down there to be really wowed about that we don't need to make really strange stuff up to make it wow. I mean, let's just be impressed with what's there, and let's not try to create stuff out of nothing to, you know, that we can't prove. You know, I mean, okay, maybe it's true. Maybe there's some sauce out there somewhere, but how do you prove it? You can't. So we need to kind of the problem that the Q movement has got right now is that it has become the clearinghouse for all things conspiracy. And I love that everybody's talking about this stuff. It's great. It's great to get the stuff out there. It's great to air some of this stuff out. But on the flip side, we have to be realistic. We have to stay with, okay, what can be proven? What cannot be proven? What is conjecture? What is not conjecture? And I think that we've actually established kind of a name for some of our out there theories. JFK Jr. being one of them. Don't crucify me about it. But until we see some real hard evidence JFK Jr. is going to come out, I mean, he didn't jump on the Pence, you know, the Trump train and become Pence's replacement like everybody was claiming he was. How does that make the Q movement look when everybody associates that with this? It's okay to have these ideas and these suppositions. That's fine. I believe me, I welcome it. I mean, you're talking to somebody who thinks that Satan's chained in Antarctica based on what I've found. But that's me saying, this is my theory. That's not me saying this is hard and true fact, and you know he's gonna come back in 2021 and in January, and this is what's gonna happen. You know, there's a big difference there, and we need to approach it cautiously, because I think as a group it's really easy to minimalize ourselves if we just jump on all these really, really out there theories without some proof. You know. And by proof, I mean legitimate proof, not some crappy Photoshop or some. I mean, I posted my on my anomaly Antarctica anomaly thread that I posted the half disc melt pond, and I had commented that it was pretty symmetrical. It was pretty cool. but I mean, from shadowing and stuff, it was very obviously a melt pond. There's no other question about what it could be, you know. And within 2 days, there was somebody that had a video up claiming it was a half of a flying saucer sticking out a rock. Come on, folks, pull your heads out of your ass. Forget it. No, stop. I mean, I'm not trying to downplay people's enthusiasm about stuff, but on the flip side, we have to be realistic about this stuff. So, anyway. Hugh Hefner met his platinum blonde girlfriend at a cloning lab. Okay, Ellen, which one? He had about 500 platinum blonde girlfriends. So sorry, give me a name. He did actually like having them all look the same, though. It's pretty amazing. There was not a lot of variety in Playboy. We'll just leave it at that. It was blonde and busty, and that was pretty much what he wanted, and that's what he got. If you look at percentage of blondes versus redheads or brunettes, it was weighted very heavily to blondes most of the time. Mask. Oh, yeah. Go read my thread, Double Star. That explains the mask technology. It's been around for decades. Hollywood's used it for decades. I really think that we've seen quite a few masks out there. In fact, people have been starting to post, well, yeah, I'm wearing a mask. It's just my fat, but you know they've been noticing irregularities in the neck area. Some of the masks actually come down, you know, more shoulder and chest and back length, and those are exceptionally, you know, I mean they can be exceptionally good. You really can't tell. You can't tell somebody's wearing a mask, and they look close enough that you're fooled, but they're different enough that you're going, wait a minute, because a person's head shape, physical head shape, is not always going to jive, or the spacing of the eyes and the mouth and all that stuff is going to be different. You know, I mean, those are some unique parameters of a human head that it's kind of hard to match those up. Not a lot of people are going to share those parameters. So that's why there was that one video of Kamala that looked way the hell off. And I think that was a mask. I think that was a clone or a body double wearing a mask. And, you know, what did we just see her using a body double, a couple days ago, popped up on the campaign trail somewhere, you know, and they were calling her Loomer or whatever the hell her name was calling her out, you know, hey, you're a body double. And I mean, we know they do it. So, I mean, it's very obvious that there's two Bidens. You know, you've got the one with the very defined nose, and the other one with the candidate nose that's different. It's a softer face. It's not as hard. It's more round. It's not as narrow and long. So my observations of the differences. You guys got another strike on the main channel? For what, Joel? Oh, man. You want to jump on? You're free. Glad to have you guys over here for a change. You know, Navigator, welcome, by the way. I noticed the same thing. I was going to post a little bit of a thread on that, but I don't think it's worth bringing attention to. I don't want to bring a bunch of attention to it. If we go to QPost 64, I believe, it's dated 11/2, and it says, I will be going now for good now, which I find very interesting. Was it Q predicting that Watkins was going to walk, or that he was done at that point, or is Watkins Q? Yeah, I mean, because Q's posted since then, so we know it wasn't Q. I was predicting that Q was going to be done on 11/2, so that's what I get for predicting. I didn't follow my own rule. Don't predict. And guess what? I was wrong, because Q posted on 11/3. So I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough one. I think that there's something there. I think there's something worth looking at there. But I also know that Ron Watkins and Joe M are both very tightly tied into the Q team without necessarily being fully read in. The Coon got military grade hardware. You know, they showed that trunk full of stuff that was all ex-military servers. So they actually got some old military stuff, and who knows how old it really was. I mean, I'm not a server expert, so I mean, it could have been 40 years old and looked brand new to me. I don't know, but I mean, it just an interesting coincidence. It really was something. I don't know if anybody remembers seeing that picture with the minivan full of servers back when before 8kun got online, right after 8chan got killed. So anyway, that's what I'm referencing. YouTube added again. Yes, wait till I see who's been talking to you here. Double meanings in the suggestion. That's man. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, other than in the Q movement, is Ron known? No. I got a feeling that who we're talking to is going to be a little bit of a surprise. I have some conjectures, but I'm going to just keep them to myself. Thanks for jumping in, Alan. Good night. Talk to you later. Marie, that's the way I got to treat things too. If I can put a pin in it, it's real. If not, not my concern. SCP is what I call it. Somebody else's problem. I'm all about somebody else's problem because it's one less thing I got to worry about. Let's see here. I think military has already taken over. I think military backbone's the coon already. So not gonna necessarily comment one way or the other. Cyberbullying and harassment. Are they older videos or are they anything recent? Hopefully nothing I was in. Oh, happy birthday, Carrie. Well, I've got the ones, well, your channel's still up. You just can't upload. So the stuff that you've done is still there for now. So you'll be okay. All right. I think I'm caught up. You guys got anything else? Oh, hi, Carrie. Good to see you. What are you, 22, 23 now? I'm trying to curry favor here. Yeah, you guys are going to have to be careful. Are you, I would definitely work on getting everything moved over to your backup channel just to have it all there and be safe. Because if you do get nuked again, at least you'll have something you can pop into and have everything still there. That is a pain in the ass, though, I will admit. Anybody else got any questions? Anything dying to know? Want to hear me just ramble on about stupid stuff? Hey, Pepe was the... Thanks, buddy. You take care. I mean, if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. Muncie, Pepe. That's an interesting one because Pepe is a frog. Keck is a frog. Pepe is a snake. They're both amphibian reptilian. And I don't know. Night, you two. Have a good night. Does my wife have anything to say? Yeah, probably. I don't know if anybody wants to hear it, though. Oh boy, that got me a look.
How rude.
They're supposed to update every 30 days, but haven't updated in 48 months. What are you talking about, Matt? I'm not sure I'm understanding that one. Well, Red, or I should say Rabbit Leader. I love having my own little rabbit squadron. I've got quite a few rabbit followers. I'm thinking you should round them all up and form a coalition of rabbits. I think this is an important thing. You could call yourselves Watership Down. Yes, I really went there. Anyway, why you guys are locked down again? Sorry, chopper overhead. You guys are locked down because it's a control mechanism, and Boris is not your savior. He got you out of Brexit, but he he's not the end all be all. He's deep state as well, and I think that they're just, I think Farage is probably going to be your guys' Trump. Although I don't know, I haven't been paying as close attention to that as I probably should. I've got lots of history in England. I actually recently found that I traced right back to royalty in England, which I wasn't aware of. Yeah, don't ask. Turns out I might have more claim to the English throne than the Queen does. Anyway, but we'll see. I mean, it's about control. It's just about, the whole lockdown thing is about control mechanisms. They're trying to control you, and because you guys don't have any guns, and that sounds horrid. It sounds, how cliche American redneck. You don't got guns, so you're stuck. But I mean, guns are the things that make tyrants fear their populations, and by giving up your guns, you and Australia both have basically. I mean, and I'm not blaming you specifically. I'm speaking in general. You've both have set the course for how things are going to go. You're done. It's going to take, no offense, us bailing your ass out again, like we did in World War II, which that's a whole nother can of worms with the Q thing, isn't it? But we're there. We'll be there. We'll get ourselves straightened out. We'll come on over. We'll get the UK straight. We're gonna recognize right where we came from. I love the UK. Love to go back there. I wouldn't go back there now, not with all the crap going on. But in 10 years, once it's cleaned up, I'd love to go back and visit some more. I love the time I spent there. I'd love to get up into Scotland and Wales a little bit. Some other areas is a little bit more, but London was just phenomenal. But that was in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was a completely different time frame. Nowadays I wouldn't even venture there just because of the M issue. So, but there's so much history that I don't want to see destroyed that's there. And I want to know the truth of some of it too. There's a lot of truth that's buried in some of those abbeys and some of those churches. And I would love to see the truth. And there's a lot there. So, are you or other nuns going to compile a movie with all the great threads and decodes as a historical reference? All my stuff is archived for the most part because I tend to pre-write all my stuff on Word, and I've got folders. I've got a folder with each individual dig and put all the pictures and the graphics and the Word document all in one folder, so it's all in one spot. So I've got all my stuff archived on my computer. As far as making a movie, I don't know. I'm leery enough about doing this. So, I know something we can do in a little bit. You guys can help me pick my theme music. Anyway, this is why New Zealand doing a gun ministry. Yeah, New Zealand, they're just Australia light. So, do you know if countries in the outside use are also spreading the MSMPS news? I'll tell you something. The mainstream media is worldwide. CNN is worldwide. It is interesting that sometimes I would, and this has been true for 15 years for me, I would get more accurate news out of English press than I would out of American press. I used to pretty religiously watch, UK Mail or, Daily News or some of those other ones, and I just scan the stuff. That's kind of what I do. It's my way of taking the temperature of the situation. I'm able to, for some reason, I can look at a grouping and come up with an overall temperature and feel for the whole thing. It's my talent, I guess. And that's kind of how I would see stuff, because I'd see that, okay, well, they're focusing on this, where the American press is focusing on this. So what are we missing here? And, I was able to put a lot of stuff together early on that way. Scotland is beautiful. I would love to go up there. I also have Scottish shirts as well. So, both Stewart and Gunn. So, anyway. Oh, I didn't know that, Carrie. That's cool. So, let me see if I can figure out how to do this. Give me just a second here. There's going to be screen moving and all sorts of stuff going on that may not make a lot of sense. There's that. Okay, I'm going to do... there we go. Hi, you can still see me. You poor bastards. All right, I've got this guy. His name is Tombstone Graffiti. That's his band name. And he's actually very, very, very exceptionally generously given me pretty much free access to all of his music and videos to utilize for my YouTube channel. Now, he did some edits for me, and he edited some stuff down to 1 minute, because that's kind of what I want as my intro. I'm looking at music only. I'm not looking at video at this point, just because the video, I would like to make it a little bit more cue specific, and I don't know. I'm goofy and I'm picky that, I can't do it myself, but if I'm going to have somebody do it, it's going to be the way that I want it. So I really like this guy's music. It's not as rocky as like Quiet Voices, which Guitarzan did a great job for those guys. That's great music. The verbiage is wonderful. I'm not into music with words. I would rather have the pictures tell the story. So that's why I'm kind of picky about my visual. So let me play this one for you first. This is the one that really has my attention. Oh, you were opening just fine for me the other day. La-di-da. Could you all hear that one okay? Yes? No? Maybe? Am I talking to myself? Video audio really loud. Okay. I will fix that. Two okays. Yeah, I really liked it. It caught my attention initially. I was like, wow. This one kind of caught my attention too. I'll turn it down a little bit for you guys here once I get it going. I love that one, but it doesn't really fit the 1 minute. It kind of fades out just as it starts to change into something kind of cool. Um, that first one, the first one's hard to beat. I admit, the first time that was the first thing I heard, and I was like, oh my god, that's it. But I don't like to just assume. So here, let's hit another one here. So most everybody's still on number one. Not getting a lot of response here. Everybody hear me still? I'll put everybody to sleep, I guess. Okay, here's number three. I really like that one, but I think that one's a little bit too laid back. I could be wrong on that, but we'll put that in the strong number two. What do you think about that? So far, everybody likes one. Looks like that one's hard to beat. I'll have to show you the video he has for that too. I might just use the video straight up because it's actually a pretty good video. Here's number three or number four. So some of these don't have a real good break in a minute, and that's part of the problem. Like that one I kind of like, but it just well, anything that brings back memories of the 70s is gonna win, huh, Helen? So what do you guys think about number 4? Still on 1? Not 4 for sure. Okay. Yeah, that one kind of goes away weirdly. All right, here's number 5. This is the last one. We'll take a vote at the end. I like this one. Okay. 1 through 5. Take your pick. Yeah, if you guys want to see my full logo that you can't really see on the thing here, I'll pop it up here for you real fast. I actually did this myself. I found this great picture. It's the Matterhorn, and it's kind of pyramidal, which I liked. And then it had the great space background, and then this snowy with you can see the lights for the towns and stuff. And I don't know, I just really liked it. I put a little Peppy hidden here in the D and a Punisher hidden in the O. Regrettably, most of the time you're only going to see this, but I like the whole picture. I think it's awesome. Kind of proud of it. I don't know. Whatever. So let me play you the first one again with the video. This is the video. Oh, I don't have the clean video. He's got a clean video. Oh, this one is it. And that's about where it would end. So, whoops, come on. There we go. Bye. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got. Back to my ugly mug. Hi, guys. Sorry. So 1. Everybody likes 1. Okay. I may just use that video too and just put some stuff over the top of it. I'll have to figure out how to video edit. That's obviously not my forte. I can do graphics slightly, but I'm not a pro by any stretch of the imagination. I'll give it a whack. I got to definitely give the artist credit. He did a really good job for me, and he's just like he edited all the stuff down to a minute for me, all the choices I had. So, well, I like this one. I'd like to hear this one in a minute. I like to, he's like, yeah, great, no problem. Here, let me do that for you. And he just, boom. It's like, geez, dude, great, thank you. He's being very, very generous. He doesn't have to do that, and I appreciate his generosity. Tombstone Graffiti again. I'll definitely be getting his info out there more. He's a good artist, out of Vegas or something, I think. So, and yes, that's that is my cat, my last one. I had 6 animals about 4 years ago. I had 3 Siberian Huskies and 3 cats, and I'm down to just 1 cat in that time frame. So, yeah, you have something to say? She's the sassy one. She always has something to say. Anyway, use Fiverr. Huh. Is that a video editing deal, or is that something where I can get people that can do that kind of stuff? And Rhodesia, Zimbabwe. What do you mean, Muncie? Yeah, that first video, I like the video. It's kind of just, it's kind of more upbeat, a little bit happier, a little bit brighter, and I like that. I mean, sometimes we're going to go into some pretty dark subjects, like I did with on Quiet Voice with the Swindoll video, talking about Luciferianism, and sometimes I think it's nice to have a offset for that. Anyway, you guys, we've been doing this for 2 hours now. Anyway. If you want to DM me a link to that, Matt, I'd appreciate that. That'd be awesome. I've got nothing more on the American Rescue by SEAL Team 6 last week. Okay, is that the Rhodesia, Zimbabwe thing? Oh, wait, no. 2 different things in Africa. Change of Rhodesia, South Africa to failed states. Honestly, the whole Rhodesia, South Africa thing, well, Rhodesia was named after Cecil Rhodes, and Cecil Rhodes was obviously the king of diamonds. He was the one that went in there, and he basically, started it all. Oddly enough, the Rhodes Scholarship, which is a gateway to deep statism, was named after him. Bill Clinton was a Rhodes Scholar. A lot of these folks that seem to fall into this category were Rhodes Scholars. So I really think that Rhodes was a deep stater himself, if not actively working for the Rothschilds, then he was their proxy. So Rhodesia was doomed to die. They got what they wanted out of it. They didn't want to get technologically advanced. I mean, look at poor Africa. I mean, we can make the argument about, that they've never really had their own, super civilization. Although Nigeria and Ethiopia both could lay claim to something. And let's talk about Egypt. I mean, that's in Africa. But as far as Southern Africa goes, there's not really been any known big major civilization. It's just been tribes, tribal behavior and such. And it's easy to dismiss, Africans because of that. Not even sure where I was going with this, but Rhodesia, I think, was something that was destined to fail because there was never the support in place for it. They never wanted them to become technically advanced, because if they became technically advanced, then they wouldn't get as much money out of the situation with the diamonds and the gold. And diamonds and gold are what South Africa is known for. The kimberlite mines throughout South Africa, and for diamonds, the kimberlite pipes, which is where basically throats of volcanoes is where they find diamonds. And then I was a jeweler for a while. Sorry, another one of my strange, odd sidetracks. So I learned a lot about diamonds and gold too. And South Africa is one of the largest producers of gold in the world still. And not South Africa, the country, but I mean Southern Africa, I should say. So it's funny. All of our jewelry is paid for basically in blood. By the people down there. It's kind of sad one way. I mean, when you see some of these more significant gems, they're quite breathtaking. I mean, I've handled 10-carat diamonds, and I mean, it's a nice one's enough to really take your breath away because I mean, it's really really cool. But on the flip side, the price that's paid for it is just, what are you really paying for? I mean, carbon's one of the most common elements on the planet. I mean, theoretically, there's planets full of diamonds laying on the surface. In the universe somewhere. It just takes pressure and heat and carbon, and well, carbon's everywhere. So anyway, sorry, sidetrack, big time. Um, Muncie, you want me to do a 5-hour show at some point, don't you? Well, you may get your wish one day, just not on a weeknight. Power of presidency is in DC applies to declare a second capital. Yes, Clay, blood diamonds. All of them are blood diamonds. I don't care if they say they are or they're not, but they are. They're paid with the blood, sweat, and tears of the Africans that are paid. Even the ones that are mined legitimately are. It's just they're paid so minimally and so pitifully that I mean, we make more in a day than those few folks make in a year, and it's just not right. I mean, I'm not a big bleeding heart person, but you know, at a certain point, I do kind of look at things and go, yeah, it's just vanity. Who cares? I mean, the industrial uses for diamonds are phenomenal. I mean, and realistically, that's 90% of or 95% of what's mined is industrial grade diamonds. I mean, very, very few diamonds are worthy of gem quality. Um, they're nowhere near as rare as they want you to believe, but they're still fairly rare. Are they $10,000 a carat rare? No, but that's a story for the other day. Nancy Pelosi said the power of the presidency isn't in D.C. This implies to me they will declare a second capital. I am firmly of the belief that part of the reset that we're going to have to go through and part of the undoing of the corporation of 1791, I believe was the date, is going to have to be the undoing of Washington, D.C. We also need to remove all of the Satanist Luciferian symbolism in DC, i.e., the Washington Monument, the owl symbolism in the Capitol, there's the pentagram shape within the Capitol as well, based on 5 major monuments, and they're laid out in a pentagram. There's a lot of occult stuff that was designed into Washington, D.C., and I think it's going to be necessary for that to be eradicated, as it were. Where they're going to put the Capitol, I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities. They could go back to Philadelphia, which is where our capital initially was. Although it's kind of a shithole, I'm not sure I'd want to put it in Philly anymore. Hopefully that's changing. Denver makes a lot of sense because it's more centrally located, and it's also very fortifiable. But it's pretty high up. I mean, nobody wants to go 10,000 feet to visit your president. But it's at least not 90 degrees with 99% humidity during the summer either. I've been in Washington, D.C. in the summer. It's not pleasant. All right, what do we got here? Is Nancy Pelosi drunk? It's much easier to ask when she isn't. I don't know quite enough about the 1791 thing to elaborate as much as I'd like to. That's one of those things that I'm kind of a noob. I don't want to say I'm a noob, but it's not one of those things that really grabs my attention to the point where I can focus on it and distill all the details like I do on other things. There's a lot of financial and legal nuance to it. And honestly, anytime I read something legal, I tend to go to sleep. So I don't do good with dry treatises and legal documents. It just not my thing. So I will defer to others. But I do believe that there is some truth to some of the Nasara Jasara stuff. Not as crazy as some people are thinking. Would it be great to get $1 million each? Yeah, but is it realistic? No. That would create an inequity that would be unforgivable. It might be really cool for us initially, but I think in the long run it would end up blowing up in our faces. So I don't see POTUS doing that to us. Oh, PM likes 5 over number 1. Interesting. Thank you for the vote, PM. Was the Constitution defaced? Wow. According to some, yes. I've seen the Constitution on display in DC. I was 12, 14, something like that. I wasn't very old. Do I remember specifically, was it capitalized and did it say of and what was capitalized and what wasn't? No, I don't. I would like to be able to go back and look at it and see it with my own eyes. Maybe know, with a little bit more intelligence and learning to be able to see what it is. That's one of the, like I say, the Admiralty law, the flag without the gold fringe, all of that. I mean, I think that all has some legitimacy because I know that much of the world runs on that background old style law stuff, and if we take that into account, then it makes sense that some of this is going to have some truth to it. So have we could transition from Admiralty law to land law? That would be phenomenal. I mean, if we can get away from Admiralty law, then the battle's won. We have done what we needed to do, and it's just a matter of crossing T's and dotting the I's at this point. So that's where I think we are. I honestly do think that debt forgiveness will happen, but I don't think it'll happen in the way we think. I think what's going to happen is as we transition to the gold standard, which I do firmly believe will be happening. Gold and silver are your friends. And I say that as a non-money guy, but I've done a lot of research and talked to a lot of money people, and I have invested in some gold for sure. Because it's the only thing that's going to stay flat value-wise throughout all of the upcoming things, and it's really undervalued right now. But the debt forgiveness, I think, is not fair to those people that have already worked hard to be out of debt. I mean, I can take myself as an example. I own my house. I own a car. Two biggies. I don't have any credit card debt. I don't have any other real debts. Some minor stuff, but I mean, nothing that, adds up to anything more than a couple $1,000s. And we worked really hard to get there because, we didn't want to have that stuff hanging over our head. So is it fair that somebody that's got 22 credit cards that are all maxed out gets expunged completely, because they were irresponsible? I just don't, I mean, I don't really care. I mean, I'm not all about, it's got to be fair for everybody, but on the flip side, I don't see where that's going to be equitable for everybody. And I don't see POTUS rewarding bad behaviors. Much as I'd like to be able to say, if I know this is coming and they're going to forgive a debt, I'm going to go out and buy myself that $100,000 car that I know in 6 months is going to be wiped clean, until I know that that's the way things are going, I'm going to be cautious. I think it's only the right thing to do. So I do believe the IRS is pretty much gone. The IRS has never been a government institution. It's always been a private institution, just like the Fed. So, I mean, we're going to see. I think here's what we've got coming. I really believe this. We're going to see a gold standard change. That's gonna rewrite the playbook. Period, because it's going to put us on a stable financial footing. The dollar is going to remain stable at that point. You know, a dollar is going to buy the same amount now as it does in 10 years. And that's important because it means that your savings are staying steady in value instead of declining. Secondly, I do believe that we're going to see a decrease in taxes. Prior to 1913 and the formation of the Fed, the country survived without taxation. There were some small sales tax, but for the most part, there was no income tax. There was no employment tax. There was none of that. Now, if all that disappears, we all immediately get a 20% raise, period. I mean, right off the bat, 20%, bang, maybe more in some cases. Okay, 20 to 25%. Well, that's huge. I mean, who wouldn't be doing better with 20 to 25% more money in their pockets? I know I would be. Hell, I'd be ecstatic. So that I think is coming too. Thirdly, I think banking as we know it is going to change drastically. I don't know how. I really have a problem wrapping my head around some of it. I've talked to some people in the know, and they've tried to explain it to me, and I'm like, you know, and like I say, I'm not a money guy, and they get into terms and terminology that just make me go, okay, so how's that going to work? You know, loans are going to change the way things look done. Credit scores are probably going to go away and change. They're not going to necessarily be, you know, I mean, that's going to go away. Another big thing that has to change is insurance. You know, we all survived without insurance for decades, from hundreds of years prior to now. All of a sudden, it's being mandated. You know, you must buy insurance. Well, yeah, screw that. I mean, I spend more money in insurance than I would in payouts if I ever had a problem. So, anyway, you got me pontificating again, folks. Is that what you want? I'd be cautious about crypto, Helen. I think crypto's a trap. I know a lot of people are thinking the new financial system's going to go crypto. I really don't. Crypto has too many chances to be corrupted. But I believe the IRS will be gone. It's going to go the way of the Fed. Bye. Yeah, I agree, Sandra. I think we're going to be comfortable, and everybody's definition of comfortable is different. My definition of comfortable is being able to spend reasonable amounts of money when I would like to, not have to save up to spend $500. I don't see anybody going out and dropping 20 grand at a whim because they're comfortable. That's not comfortable. That's rich. With as much gold as it said that we've got back, and if they do, I mean, here's the thing that's possible, and this is the mind-blowing part. If we take a look at the taxes that have been stolen from all of us as United States citizens, and if that tax, I mean, after all debt's wiped out, national debt, which effectively, and I've said this before, national debt's effectively gone. As soon as the Treasury absorbed the Fed, that pretty much wiped our debt out. I mean, the Fed owned the debt on the Treasury, but the Treasury absorbed the Fed. What do you think's going to happen? China owns like 10% of our debt. It's a minimal amount. It's 10 trillion or something, but it's still not a whole lot. I say that casually. But that's, obviously that's going to get dealt with. If we end up with all this gold that they're talking about, I mean, we're talking hundreds of trillions of dollars. I mean, there's potentially quadrillions of dollars we're dealing with here. If we start talking about confiscation of assets due to human trafficking, I mean, that gives us all the world banks, because of the Rothschilds. It gives us everything Soros. It gives us most of everything that Prince Aloid had. I mean, the figures are staggering what we will end up with. And if that's the case, our debt is nothing. And Trump obviously believes we have the money because he's spending money hand over fist. And he's a businessman. He wouldn't do that unless he knew he had that money covered. So something's happening. But I'm hesitant to say that we're all going to get this big bulk check and everything's going to be, and nothing ever happens quite that easily. I mean, God, would I love it. But is it going to happen that way? I mean, are we all going to wake up one morning and our mortgages are paid? Hell, that'd be awesome. Sign me up. I mean, that's immediate $500,000 equity for me. I'll take it any day of the week. I mean, not everybody's gonna be as fortunate because they don't live in a high overvalued area like I do, but it is what it is. Yeah, credit scores they're a social thing. They're using them now that way. Can't answer that about Hitler's Germany. Well, the debt clock's just a website, so I mean, would you advertise that you didn't have any debt if you didn't have any debt? And I wouldn't advertise it until it was time. Trump plays his cards exceptionally close to his chest. He's not going to lay that card out there until it's time. And, he's not going to use it to buy himself an election. I mean, if he could have easily gone forth and said, okay, here's the deal. I've got all this money. I'm going to throw you guys all this bonus check, before the election. Oh, it has nothing to do about the election, but I'm going to do it right before the election. I mean, he couldn't do that because of optics. So give the guy some credit as far as doing it for the right reasons at the right time. Later, Clay. Nice talking to you. Yeah, the med beds. That's another one. Boy, that'll be something if that's a real thing. I think the technology is potentially there, but the other thing that we've got to consider is what is the result of all of us living and being, and I'm not talking about just the United States. I'm talking worldwide. Living for 120, 150 years in perfect health, or even 200 or 300 years. I mean, nobody really knows how far the human body can really go. I mean, we've got biblical things, but I mean, those can be easily misconstrued because, the allegory or date keeping or whatever is different. When you've got 7.5 billion people, with China and India making up about half of that, and they're hugely overcrowded, the last thing they're going to need or want is longer longevity. If anything, they need more people to be kicking off. So we'll see. As a percentage of how many wars do you think started for legit reasons across time? How far back? Give me a solid number. Are you talking 500 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years? Give me a number. What does he mean by biblical? To me, that sounds like supernatural things. What he means by biblical is, I think, a literal thing. The Bible talks about certain events and certain things, and we're coming upon a time frame where some of that stuff is actually going to be happening. The Bible is prophecy. I'm not going to jump on anything, specific about anything other than the fact that a lot of what we're seeing, a lot of what's happening was foretold. It's foretold by Kim Clement, and he's a recent prophet. So, I mean, it's not that there's anything unique about the Bible in that way, but the Bible's kind of like a very rough roadmap, and then newer prophets kind of fill it in the gaps, as it were. So, How far can a human body go if it's not poison? Well, we don't know that, and that's kind of what I was getting at. We really don't know. We don't know how far the human body can go. And like Glenna was saying, there was a guy in China that made it to 140s. Now, we can't necessarily trust that because China is not above fudging numbers to make themselves look better. So take that for what it's worth. But I will say some of the rural Chinese, especially the ones that live out away from the cities and up in the mountains, live very, very clean lives. And they could, and because of the way the Chinese are as far as their belief structures and their health, they do believe in balance in their life. And I wouldn't find it surprising to see if one of them got to 140. He's 1 out of 7.5 billion. There's going to be the oddballs to get there. 2000 BC to current day. I'm going to say for sure for the past 1,000 years, there has not been a war that has not been started for money making. Prior to that, I'm going to say that there were probably small skirmishes that were started just because somebody didn't like the cut of somebody else's jib. But most wars are either territorial, money, religious belief, or money, literally money. They wanted, or they felt threatened. So, if this Nimrod cult hadn't have, some people really believe that the Nimrod cult is the originators of war. They were supposedly the ones with the first army. So take that into consideration, and it kind of makes sense that many wars probably wouldn't have happened at all, if ever, and the world would be in much different shape right now if those folks had never come to power. Lots of Isaiah, lots of Revelation. I mean, depends on what your view on Revelation is. Some people, I make the argument for, the preterist view in one of my Antarctica threads because of where things appear to be. But, sorry, it'll be real interesting to see how things go. So, all right, we got anything else? I'm getting kind of tired, guys. Starting to run out of steam. Been a long day for me already. We didn't really talk about the election stuff too much, which kind of surprises me. You're welcome, Andrietta. I hope I said that right. Andrietta. Yeah, Andrietta. It's kind of an interesting name. Pretty. You're welcome. $1871. Okay. Yeah, that was right after the Civil War. So take that for what it's worth. Night, Helen. Have a good evening. I'm going to bail, guys. Thank you for watching. Thanks for being on my first Zoom, my first live stream. A little different than what I think you're probably expecting out of most of us, but sometimes it's fun to just get in there and talk and ramble. So we might do this from time to time. I might actually do a thread next time. I don't know. We'll see what bug gets me. Anyway, night, guys. Have a good evening. Thanks for joining me.